Hello everyone, I'm Sheikh Mohammed. This one recording for the Blockchain Laboratory, and today my honorable guest, Mr. Austin Kim, IR Director and co-founder of Crypterium. And thank you very much for joining us today for this interview to talk about Crypterium.
Perfect. Happy. Ask away. Any question, doesn't matter.
Could you please tell us about Crypterium, sir?
Okay, so let me just give a little bit of background. So Crypterium originally was created, I think, under a different name and under a different company about 4 years ago when we created a payment platform. Think of something like, let's say, Apple Pay or Alipay, where individuals could make payments to merchants using a mobile phone, using all the various technologies that the payment platforms use. And then about 12 months ago, we realized that the real future was in the cryptocurrency market. So what crypto is it's obviously a digital asset that has all sorts of value, but it's very difficult to spend it. And we realized that we already had, let's say, 80% of the technology built to build a payment platform where a person can use a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or Dash or Ethereum or any other appropriate token, and they could go into a shop like every other normal person, and instead of paying with cash, they would love to pay with their crypto assets. And today that's practically impossible, but our payment platform makes that possible. So what it means in practice is that you could go to Starbucks or you could go to Pizza Hut or wherever it is, or your local supermarket, and they will issue you with a bill for $4 or whatever the payment price is. You would use your mobile phone. You'll put the mobile phone to the payment terminal, and if you just press enter, it will pay the merchant in the $4 that they asked for, but you will be debited from your cryptocurrency payment wallet. Now, and that's sort of the main function. We have many other sort of key features, but ultimately what you can say is we're a digital bank without a banking license that makes all the payment processes possible.
What is the key difference between a wallet and a crypto bank, which means Crypterium?
Well, all a wallet enables you to do is it's like a digital bank vault. I mean, it's a vault where you put your digital asset into it, your crypto asset, and you store it there. And if you want to transfer it, you of course you can do so to another digital wallet. But if the person that you want to send the money to doesn't have a digital wallet, then of course you have to take the money out of your own wallet, put it through an exchange such as Kraken or one of the main exchanges, change the money into a physical currency, pay all the fees, all the transaction charges that goes with that, and then eventually when you get your money, you can send it to somebody else. But with our application, that's not necessary. So inside our application, or inside, let's say, our bank, is a digital wallet, is a wallet where you will keep all of your own digital currency, but instead of having to do all of those processes yourself, we effectively do all of that for you behind the scenes without you ever having to basically go into your own wallet. And you can then make the payment process through our application. So inside our bank is a wallet, but all of the functions that you would have to do if the other person didn't have a wallet, you can do through our Crypterium application.
There are over thousands of cryptocurrency existing right now. So how many cryptocurrencies you are going to support in your Crypterium?
Well, we will start off with the cryptocurrencies that have, let's say, the largest market cap. The key thing here, of course, is that the currency must be exchangeable, and it must be reasonably readily exchangeable. So it means that if you wanted to pay with a new token that was issued yesterday, for example, and it's not listed on any of the exchanges, then you cannot pay with it because, of course, we cannot we cannot make that transfer for you. But at the beginning, we will start with the main currencies. But eventually, it's our intention, and by eventually, I don't mean in 50 years' time. I mean, within, say, 12 or 18 months' time after we've launched, any major currency, digital cryptocurrency that is available on probably more than one exchange. It really should be available on more than one exchange so that we can actually have a proper market price. We will be able to work with it. So we'll start with the main ones, maybe 4 or 5 of the main currencies. But eventually, what we really want to see is that any cryptocurrency, in the same way that you can spend, let's say, how many currencies are there in the world? Let's say there's 200 real currencies available in the world today in terms of fiat currencies. What people would love is having an application where you could spend any currency in any shop anywhere. Well, that's our vision for cryptocurrency, where you can spend pretty much any cryptocurrency, any shop that has the necessary technical infrastructure, which, as I've mentioned, is probably just the Visa and MasterCard terminals. And then you can spend pretty much any cryptocurrency as long as it's exchangeable.
That's great, sir. Since you are talking about the tokens, there are plenty of tokens available in the market. What makes the Crypterium tokens very unique?
Well, I think every token obviously would claim that it has unique features. But what is very important is that when we were designing Crypterium, the token had to have a function. We didn't just want to issue a token that had no real role to play other than, say, raising of cash. That's not the purpose of our token. What we need, really, for every transaction, of course, there is a cost. Any company that does any form of service or transactions has a cost. And when we do any transaction, there is a cost. And what we basically use our token for is it is the fuel that we require to make the transaction happen. So what we effectively do is when the token is issued, people are really buying into our product. And when they use our product, we burn a small amount of the token equivalent to 0.5% of the transaction. So let me explain what that means. So if you wanted to do a payment that cost $100,
okay,
and you went into a store and you put your mobile phone to the Visa payment terminal, okay, it would pop up on the screen that says, this transaction is $100. You will also be charged 0.5% for making the payment in a crypto currency. So we would charge, in this instance, 50 cents for a $100 transaction. Now, we don't physically charge 50 cents. What we charge is a small, minute share of the crypto currency, our own cryptocurrency, CRPT, crypt. And we burn that as part of the transaction. Now, what that means in practice is that the amount of tokens that are in supply will gradually go down. The more transactions that we have, the more of our own currency that we will burn, because every time there's a transaction, as I say, we need fuel to make the transaction happen, and we will burn some. So effectively what is going to happen is that our own currency, our own token, will gradually reduce in supply, and each time there is a payment of any amount, that amount is effectively being pumped back into the token environment. And I think probably the best way to describe that is, let's say, for sake of argument, we make $10 million of transactional payments. So we have all our users, they're all making various transactions, and we generate fees of, let's say, $1 or $10 million. It doesn't matter. Okay. What we're effectively doing each time we do that, we're burning a small amount of crypt, because the customer is using that amount of crypt to make the transaction happen. The value is reducing in terms of the total number of crypt, and supply and demand should kick in, and that $10 million, in theory, should have a positive impact on the actual value of the crypt.
That's great, sir. Actually, could you please tell us about your next goal and the future development of Crypterium?
Yeah, as I said, we really want to not just be a payment app. I mean, the payment app is really the core function we see to get the market working. So at the moment, you can't spend a Bitcoin, you can't spend an Ethereum, you can't really do anything with it. So what that means is that it's really in the hands of speculators. It's in the hands of investors that see a potential future value. Now, some people might be transferring it between crypto wallet to crypto wallet, but most people are really just holding on to their assets and using them like they would any other form of asset that could rise in value. So for us, stage one has to be making the currency spendable. People have to be able to spend it. And what we see happening, the vision that we see happening, as you said quite rightly, there's over 1,000 now cryptocurrencies. And if the current trend continues, there'll be another 100 every single month in 2018, and then probably even more in 2019.
Yes.
And each one of these currencies that is being issued is backed by a project. There's an actual project there. Now, some of them are very relevant for, let's say, the average person on the street. So let me give you an example. There's a fantastic project in the US at the moment which is going to issue effectively a cryptocurrency to students for being good students, good attendance at school, good homework grades, whatever it is. Now, if that type of currency is successful, and if it is spread across the whole of the US like that project is hoping to do, then what you will see is suddenly 20 million, 30 million, 40 million students with a cryptocurrency that they can spend. Now, what that will start with is they can spend it in predefined stores and outlets. But what Crypterium would enable it to happen is that you could spend it anywhere. So the number one project for us is to make sure that the payment application works perfectly. Stage two, however, is not every outlet in the world today is prepared to work with Visa and MasterCard and Apple Pay. These machines are expensive. Many traders don't have them. So, any street food trader or small market stall trader or maybe your local retail store, they don't have these terminals. They don't have these machines. So our second stage really is the rollout of our own payment platform, which is also built. As I said, when Crypterium was first created, it was built on the back of a payment platform that had already been built and rolled out throughout Eastern Europe. And we see that as a sort of a major change. So if you, for example, if you went to China today, everybody is paying with QR codes. They're using WeChat, Alipay, etc., and they're all paying with QR codes. And merchants now are not even really worried about cash. They don't need to worry about having a Visa terminal. They just use their WeChat application. And we see the same opportunity for us throughout the world. So we have a payment platform so that people can pay with cryptocurrency to a fiat currency at any merchant as long as they've downloaded our appropriate software. And that obviously gives us a whole new market that is currently untapped. So we start off with the Visa NFC terminals and the MasterCard terminals, of which there's over 40 million. Then we roll out our own platform to everybody else who doesn't have those type of terminals. And then once we've sort of captured the total, let's say, we'll never capture the whole market, but once we've really got a good foothold in the payments market, we then see ourselves moving into, let's say, full digital bank capabilities, such as crypto lending, peer-to-peer payments, etc.
Could you please tell me about the Crypterium marketing strategy and the strength of the Crypterium?
Well, I would say what's different about Crypterium than any other mobile digital bank that's in the crypto sphere is that we already had, let's say, the product before we rolled out. So what you see with many ICOs is that they have a great idea, and it really might be the best idea that the world's ever seen, but they haven't actually had any money or spent any time building it. What they're doing is they're using the ICO to raise cash and to then go off and build the product. And then maybe 2 years later, if you're lucky, the product is launched and it's a big success. But of course, we know that that's not going to be the case for all of them. Where Crypterium is different is we'd already spent about $10 million building the payment platform before we went out with our ICO to the marketplace. And we've already basically built the product capability. In January, we will roll out a very early test version for many of our users. And by the end of the first quarter, we hope to run a full payment service application for all of our users. So that's the start of, I think, the key difference. And the second thing I would like to add is that what most ICOs do, and this isn't a criticism, it's a logical path when you take into account what I previously said, is that they go to the big institutional investors and say, we've got a great idea, put some money in. They get themselves a lot of money, and then they go into the marketplace and they add 1,000 or 2,000 additional purchases. That's not our vision. Our vision was to create a completely new, let's say, user base. So as part of our ICO, we didn't go to the big institutional investors first. We went into the marketplace first, and we put a lot of effort into collecting users. And our registered user base as of a couple of days ago was 80,000 people have registered as potential users of our platform. And we've sold our tokens to over 20,000 different people. So what we're actually creating, I think, is an immediate user base of our product that is already 90% built before we even sort of go into marketplace.
That's great. So how many people are currently working in your Crypterium team? I mean, please tell me about your team's background.
Okay, very good. So my background, I should, I suppose, introduce myself a little bit better. My background is one of financial services. So I have run several insurance companies in my time. I've run many strategic departments of large insurance groups. So I spent 7 years from 2006 to 2013 in Russia, running one of Russia's largest insurance companies. And today that company, I created it myself in 2006, and today that company has turnover of well over $1 billion. So it's been quite a successful venture. And then when I was in Russia, obviously I came across many interesting and creative people. So the core team, I guess, for Crypterium is a mixture of people like myself. There's another person called Stephen Polyak. He's an investment banker. He's an American who was also in Moscow. And we met up on many occasions to discuss various opportunities. And then we came across PayQR, which is the predecessor to the Crypterium. And inside that team was Vladimir and Gleb. Vladimir has a very successful track record in creating companies. I think he's created something like 10 companies with over $75 million of investment. And Gleb Markov. Gleb was, let's say, the banking guru in the team. He's probably one of Russia's preeminent experts in payment solutions. So we're the sort of the four core, let's say, team members. But underneath that, we've got a very big team. I don't know the exact number, but it's between 30 and 40 people. The vast bulk of them, about 20 of them, are obviously programmers. I'd like to just make a comment on this. I was actually at a conference in Las Vegas a few weeks ago, a crypto conference in Las Vegas. And one of the people at the conference said, it costs about $160,000 a year to get a really good programmer. And I remember sticking my hand up and saying, not in Russia, guys. We can get some of the best programmers in the world in Russia for about $10,000 a year. So, when we've spent $10 million building what we've built, and we've got 20 programmers, we're doing it significantly cheaper and more effective than, let's say, a similar team in Silicon Valley. Maybe, you'll find some of the best programmers in the world in Silicon Valley, but you're going to be paying an incredible amount of money. So we've got a big team. And we're probably now changing our focus a little bit, of course. So obviously the primary focus has been building the platform capability. And now what we're doing is we're building our office capability around the world. So this month we opened an office in London. We're also opening offices in Hong Kong. And we're now in that process of building let's say, the global capability.
That's great. And since your website having the Japanese language, are you really interested in Japanese market?
Absolutely. In fact, my colleague and I, Vladimir, who I just mentioned, we are going to Japan next week. So I'm actually flying to Japan on Sunday with Vladimir. We are meeting with many different potential interested parties, not just for investments, but also for partnerships. And let me just give you an example of how a crypto wallet can grow its user base by millions overnight. So we are talking to a gaming site, an Asian-based gaming site. It's not Japan, but it's an Asian-based gaming site. And they have well over 5 million players every single month. And they have their own digital currency inside the gaming site, to buy skins. I'm not really a gamer, so I don't really understand the value of these things. But people spend hundreds and thousands of dollars buying digital assets inside the game. Now, eventually, people want to cash out, but they can't cash out because the asset is specifically for the game. So that particular company is now going down the ICO route, and they are thinking of effectively turning their in-game currency into a cryptocurrency. A partnership with a company like that suddenly gets you 5 million potential crypto owners. 5 million crypto owners who will carry on playing the game for as long as they want, but eventually everybody will change out of that game one day. So eventually 5 million people will want to cash out their asset. And so we see Asia as a fantastic opportunity, not just for potential buyers of our tokens, but a huge number of partnership opportunities. And next week we're going to Japan to meet with both sides of that equation.
Could you please share your views or advice to the Japanese cryptocurrency investors?
Well, I would say that all of the story at the moment, of course, in the press is about Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is effectively let's say, the currency of choice at the moment. But in 5 years' time, as we've talked about, there's going to be 4,000 or 5,000 currencies. Now, some of them will work and some of them won't work. And what I would say is, if you are a crypto enthusiast, don't put, we have a phrase in England, don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if you drop that basket, you're going to break them all.
Yes.
Now, we think, or I personally think, that the Bitcoin has got nothing to do with the real value of the crypto asset at this point in time. Bitcoin is an indication that the world is waking up to crypto currencies. And because that's the biggest and the most well-known, everybody is putting a lot of money into that. And eventually, it will burst. I mean, that will burst. It might burst at $50,000 or it might burst tomorrow. No one knows. It might burst. But that doesn't mean that underneath that are not hundreds of really good projects. So I would be saying that for any crypto enthusiast, don't think about whether the asset is going to go up in value or not. It's like anything. If you have a really good product and you have a really good marketing team and you have a really good process, eventually the quality will come to the top. And I would be just saying to any crypto enthusiast, don't just jump on a bandwagon, because that may take you in the right direction, but it might take you in the wrong direction. Really research the product and whether you think that product has a real need. Are we really solving a problem that we think will have a real need? Now, we would argue Crypterium obviously does that, but there are many other projects out there that also do that. So I would say, don't think of it like an investment asset. Think of it that I'm going to buy into a company that I believe has a product that will work and has a real world value.
That's great. And what is your view or predictions on the futures of the cryptocurrency or blockchain technology?
Well, I think I'm probably better to talk about cryptocurrencies rather than pure blockchain, because I mean, blockchain, it's going to take over everything that we know. I'm an insurance guy, and I was at a conference recently, and the whole thing was how blockchain will transform insurance industries to the extent that you might not even need an insurance company anymore. If you're using blockchain in the way that many of these companies were describing, there's a potential that the insurance company just suddenly disappears and all of their charges and costs disappear. Now, that's unlikely in the short term, but there are many projects which are going down that path. But I definitely think with the crypto currency, there is no stopping it now. There really is no stopping it. The only way that new cryptocurrencies will be stopped if every country in the world suddenly bans the whole concept of a digital token. But it's almost impossible to do that. So there is no stopping cryptocurrencies. What was in the press maybe once every few weeks a year ago is now in the press every single day, and not just about Bitcoin, but stories about what are cryptocurrencies and how will they change our lives. And if you look at somewhere like China, 3 years ago no one was paying with QR codes. Now everybody is paying with QR codes. And I don't think it's going to be so quick with cryptocurrencies, but if more and more projects are successful, more and more people will take notice. And if companies like Crypterium can enable you to spend that, and companies like the mobile gaming site that I mentioned are issuing cryptocurrencies to the average person on the street, then I don't think there's any way to stop it. I think it is an inevitable force that is just going to grow at an incredible rate. We don't know how fast. China surprised the world with its QR payments. In 3 years, it went from nothing to 30 or 40% of the market. I don't think it'll be quite that speed for cryptocurrencies, but definitely it's going to be much more than the small 300 billion value it might be today. It could be treble that by the end of next year, and who knows the year after that.
That's great. And if I bought the tokens, Crypterium tokens, what is the benefits for the token holders?
Well, there are two benefits. One, as I said, is when you are using the platform, you will burn some crypt. But as I said, the more crypt that we burn and the more money that we are pumping back into that crypt, then of course theoretically the price will go up, but we cannot guarantee that. It's not an investment vehicle in that way. We're using that as a fuel. However, we also have a very important part of our let's say reward for our token holders is that there is a cashback fund. So if you are a token holder, actually there's a cashback fund not just for token holders but any users of our platform. If you're a user of our platform, then you will receive a share of our income base. Now, Crypterium earns income from, let's say, two main sources. One source, as I said, is we charge a 0.5% fee for every transaction. And that, though, 100% goes back into, effectively, the crypt token holders because we burn crypt. The other side of our income is the fees that we earn from merchants. Because, as you know, when a merchant is making receiving any form of payments, they are charged by Visa and MasterCard and all the various payment services. And we earn a small percentage of that. So what we give is we give 1/3 of that income to all our users. If you are a user that doesn't own tokens, you will earn a much smaller percentage than if you are a user with tokens. And so we have four categories of let's say rewards. You can think of that, I suppose, like an Air Miles. You've got gold, bronze, silver, platinum, whatever. We have something similar, and at the base level, you don't have to own our tokens. You can earn a small percentage of our total reward through just being a user of the platform. But if you are a token holder, you can earn a significant percentage of our total revenue. I mean, what we're talking about here is effectively 1/3 of all of our revenue from merchants will go back to our users, and all of the revenue that we generate from the burning of the crypt also effectively goes back to our users by the reducing of the supply of our crypt.
That's great. Actually, I'm trying to use the Crypterium, but I cannot find the mobile application. When you're going to release your mobile app?
Okay, so what we have at the moment, let's say, is a beta version, which is being tested by 5 or 6 people only. A very, very small number of people. What we will hopefully do is, when I say hopefully, it's our plan to release a wider testing group in January with a version of our payment app, and then in March or April, once all of the bugs and all of the problems, of course, this is very complicated technology. Once all the things, and we know everything is working properly, we will launch the application to the world, let's say March or April next year.
What's your final thoughts and conclusion?
Yeah, I think this is probably the most exciting development in financial services definitely in my lifetime. I mean, if you think about the insurance industry, which is my background, what is exciting and that has happened in the insurance industry in my entire lifetime? Absolutely nothing. A little bit more regulation, slightly better products, but no real new innovations. You look at banks, what have they been able to achieve? They've got mobile applications, and really that's about it. This whole concept of cryptocurrencies, there's been nothing like it in my lifetime, and I think from anybody else that I know of. And it's not going to stop. It's going to definitely happen. You can't stop it now. It's just a matter of how fast and what type of barriers will be put in its way, what type of regulations will be put in its way. But at the end of the day, it's an inevitable force. And I think now is a very good time for people who are crypto enthusiasts. Now is a very good time to really be picking your projects, because some of them will be big, some of them will disappear, but some of them are going to be, huge. I mean, if you think what happened in the dot-com era, thousands of companies, some of them ended up with billion-dollar valuations that didn't exist today. But also out of that came Google and Amazon and all the other sort of mega sites that we are aware of today. So I think it's going to be the most exciting period. And I'm personally just very happy I'm involved in it. As I say, when you're in insurance for so long and not much changes, this is a revelation.
As you said, all the cryptocurrency is not 100% genuine and is not really stable, and in some point, if some currencies are disappeared, and how are you going to tackle these problems, and how are you going to satisfy your customers in this particular issue?
Well, as I said, for us, the key is whether or not the currency is on various exchanges. Each exchange obviously looks at each currency in isolation before it puts it on the exchange. So you can't just go up to an exchange and say, I have a cryptocurrency, please put us on the exchange and start trading in it. The exchanges now are going to be under heavy regulation. There's going to be all sorts of rules and procedures that they have to follow. So any currency for us that is just floating around the edges, we're not going to touch it to start with. It's just it's not ours. It's not our target market to be dealing with fringe currencies that are questionable. So we will focus on those currencies that are exchangeable on the main markets, and that means it's not just us that is doing it, but there's a whole community of exchanges and other bodies that are assessing these currencies. And once everybody says, yes, this is an okay currency, then we'll be okay with it as well. And now nothing will be 100%, but that will be as good as I think we can achieve.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Austin Kim, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your questions.